Good night. Sweet dreams. That's what my dad would say to me. But sometimes I had trouble falling asleep. Then he would tell me stories about his travels. I want this tradition to live on. So now, let me share my stories with you. A blue morning haze hangs over the rugged mountain panorama. Dark, majestic peaks rise out of the clouds. Fine veils of mist drift above the alpine meadow, shimmering blue-green in the half-light. Only a narrow indigo strip along the horizon hints that a new morning is about to begin. But the mountain forests still lie in deep nocturnal darkness. Now and then, the muted sound of a cowbell can be heard. Otherwise, there is complete stillness. A mountain stillness. It feels deeper and clearer than anywhere else, as if the mountains swallow all unnecessary noise and at the same time cleanse the air of every constricting thought. I have now spent an entire week at nearly 2,000 meters above sea level on a high alpine pasture in the Swiss Alps. My uncle and aunt spent every summer here, caring for 8 dairy cows and 40 young animals. It is back-breaking work without any luxury. In the simple mountain hut, there's no hot water and no electricity. But a summer on the alpine pasture is also an incredibly freeing and grounding experience, one that brings me back to a life in and with nature. After just a few days in this mountain setting, I already feel as though I can breathe more lightly, more freely. I draw in the cool, grass-scented morning air, which drives away even the last traces of sleep. Sparkling drops of dew cling to my shoes as I walk across the meadow, a stick in my hand. My uncle and I drive the dairy cows into the barn for milking. With melodic calls, he lures the animals, which come toward us one by one out of the darkness, their bells gently ringing. A sandy gray cow nudges me kindly, and I stroke her soft muzzle. It is Tilly, a particularly gentle and friendly animal that I have already grown fond of over the past few days. Even though I try my best, I'm probably not much help when it comes to milking. Since there's no electricity, everything is still done by hand, which my uncle and aunt manage with surprising speed. I, on the other hand, take far too long to fill a bucket. Still, I would not want to miss this morning ritual. I love the atmosphere in the barn, the bluish, warm dimness, the grassy scent of the cows, the quiet movements of the animals, and the calm, steady rhythm of milking. And I especially enjoy the well-earned breakfast afterward in front of our hut. With a warm wooden wall at our backs, we watch the morning unfold over the valley. The alpine panorama rises dark and powerful against a pale blue sky. The farther away the mountain giants are, the more blurred their outlines become. Those in the foreground are still sharply defined in a deep blue-black that fades with distance. The farthest peaks seem almost made of mist. Sunbeams break through the clouds like spotlights, pouring their light over the valley just beginning to wake. The lush green meadow stretches out before us like a velvet carpet, so fresh and inviting that for a moment I almost wish I were a cow, just to eat my fill. But the hearty alpine breakfast laid out on the rustic wooden table leaves nothing to be desired. Butter and milk and a strong mountain cheese that my aunt, the trained cheesemaker, produces herself right here from the fresh milk. Alongside it, a few slices of bread, a cup of pitch-black coffee, and a jug of crystal-clear spring water from the nearby mountain stream. We do not speak much. Each of us quietly enjoys this peaceful moment, the view over the silent, ancient mountains and the cool freshness of the morning air. But the moment does not last long. Work is calling. While my aunt continues processing the fresh milk, my uncle goes to check on the scattered young animals. Every day he inspects each one, making sure they are all present and none are injured. He counts them, checks their legs for swelling, and offers a few gentle pats. Across such a vast area, this can easily take an entire morning. On previous days, I usually joined him on his rounds, but today I help my aunt with cheese making. She stands bent over a large kettle in which the fresh milk is heated, stirring the snow-white liquid steadily with a large ladle. When I take over for a while, I quickly notice how much strength it requires. After a short time, my arms begin to tire. While the acidifying cultures do their work in the fresh milk, the milk from the previous day is processed into what is known as curd. With a handheld cheese harp, the gelatinous mass, about the consistency of cold pudding, is cut into even pieces. With its fine metal strings, the tool really does look a little like a musical instrument. With practiced ease, my aunt draws it through the mass again and again in a steady, almost rhythmic motion. This creates the grainy fresh cheese that I used to enjoy so much, though it will still be further processed. I help her press the small pieces into molds and weigh them down so that the remaining whey can drain. It is hard work, but strangely satisfying. In the end, several rounds of cheese rest in their molds, waiting to dry. In the aging room, they are turned and brushed every day. Fascinated, I watch my aunt's practiced movements, how carefully and skillfully she lifts the large wheels from the wooden shelves and brushes them in wide, circular motions. I feel deeply grateful for this glimpse into the production of a food that so often appears on my plate as if by magic, without me ever having thought about how it is actually made. Now that I have followed the process from cow to finished wheel, I know I will never look at cheese in quite the same way again. After a short midday break, I set off on a walk to the next village, a small mountain settlement below our hut, about an hour away on foot. There I will gather firewood, candles, and a few other necessities. But I do not go alone. Joining me is Willi, one of the 3 small gray donkeys that spent the summer on the alpine pasture with us. Fitted with a pack saddle and full of quiet energy, we set off together into this beautiful day. The sun stands high overhead, a gentle promise of an endless summer day. Before us lies the softly rolling, fragrant meadow. On the horizon, the jagged mountains, some still capped with snow, and above us, the wide open sky. Willi walks ahead without concern, his soft large ears pricked forward. He knows the path better than I do. Now and then he pauses to enjoy a thistle, and I adapt to his pace. It is not easy to argue with a donkey's will anyway, but for now we are in complete agreement. There is no rush. Life hums softly above the tender green meadow. Fuzzy wild bees settle on pink clover blossoms, and a pair of pale yellow butterflies tumble through the air in a playful dance. It is a perfect alpine day. In the clear air hangs a faint trace of wood smoke, and in the distance the ringing of cowbells drifts across the land. We stop by an icy mountain stream. I refill my bottles, and Willi immediately begins to graze. I dip my feet into the lively, crystal-clear water, which bubbles around smooth, shining pebbles. I wonder where it comes from. Perhaps from a glacier high up in the mountains, and where its journey will lead. Then I sink into the soft grass and watch the shadows of clouds drift across the valley like large, dark patches. High above me, a golden eagle circles, letting out a clear, whistling cry. Calm and effortless, it glides on the thermals. My thoughts move just as slowly, drifting past like the clouds, circling gently like the silhouette of the great bird against the summer sky. But eventually, it is time to move on. When we arrive in the small village, the narrow lanes are already bathed in golden afternoon light. Willi's hooves echo softly over the cobblestones, and aside from the calls of alpine choufs, a form of crow well adapted to this mountainous region, there is little to be heard. Only about 30 people live here, and life revolves around farming and a bit of tourism. Unlike our alpine pasture, the village is accessible by car and connected to electricity and water. Yet it still radiates a deep sense of seclusion. The rustic wooden houses, with their sun-darkened beams, cling gently to the slope. Wide balconies wrap around the facades, adorned with deep red geraniums. And always in the background, the pale blue, distant, and yet strikingly clear mountain panorama. In the small village shop, I gather what we need: salt and firewood, but also a few small luxuries like coffee beans. When we set off again, our bags are full, and Willi now has quite a bit to carry. Still, he takes it all with his usual calm. Even the strong afternoon sun, under which we walk along a narrow mountain path, does not seem to trouble him. Donkeys originally come from the hot steppes of Africa and are well adapted to heat. And so we make our way together through grasses shimmering in gold, across meadows full of violet wild thyme, just as people have traveled other landscapes with their loyal animal companions since the beginning of time. We return to the alpine pasture at just the right moment. My uncle and aunt have finished their day's work, and on the stove, the delicious rösti are already sizzling. The classic Swiss potato dish, of course refined with our own mountain cheese. Tired but content, I sink onto the bench and enjoy the meal, along with cool beers I brought from the village to mark our day. On the meadow in front of the house, my uncle has cut hay. Now there are wooden poles driven into the ground, with cross pieces on which the grass is hung to dry. Like small green figures, they dot the meadow in the peaceful evening light. Everywhere it hums and buzzes and smells of freshly cut grass, herbs and wildflowers. My aunt has hung bundles along the wall of the house to dry, aromatic wild marjoram, yellow cowslips, blue-violet mallows, and the delicate cobalt-blue blossoms of speedwell. Once dried, these herbs and flowers will flavor the rind of the mountain flower cheese. The sun has long since slipped behind the hill in back of our house, but the peaks before us are still lit by its rays. Alpenglow, as it's known, truly is the right word for this spectacle. The jagged summits glow in red and gold, as if illuminated by fire, which, in a way, they are, only that this fire, our sun, is very far away. The delicate evening clouds shimmer in shades of rose and orange, like a fine veil laid over the peaks. While my uncle and aunt milk the cows once more, I remain lazily on the bench in front of the hut, my favorite place. And even when they have long since gone to bed, I'm still sitting there, now wrapped in a thick warm blanket, breathing in the cool, clear night air. The night settles in an even deeper silence over everything, and I think of a line from the famous German poet Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Over every mountain top lies peace. Stars begin to appear, countless and fine, as if someone had scattered a handful of silver dust across a velvet blue sky. I could sit here all night. Thoughts drift through me slowly, like smoke dissolving into dark air. But the day has settled into my bones now, warm and heavy, and my eyes grow soft against my will. The stars blur gently at their edges. The cowbells in the distance seem to come from somewhere very far away, or perhaps from inside a dream that has already begun. I rise without quite deciding to. The oil lamp, a small amber warmth in my hand, and move through the hut as though through water, each step quieter, slower, the world growing softer around me. I sink into the down blankets and feel them rise up to meet me like a cloud, like a cupped hand, like the valley itself holding me still. And somewhere between waking and sleep, between the snow-capped peaks and the open sky, I'm no longer sure where the mountains end and I begin. The tinkling of distant cowbells winds through the dark like a lullaby without words. The golden eagle drifts in wide, unhurried circles behind my closed eyes. And the vastness of the landscape, so ancient, so unbothered, so endlessly quiet, folds itself gently around me, until there's no difference between the stillness outside and the stillness within. Over every mountain top lies peace.